Hello, and welcome to William W. Rutherford & Associates Production Optimization Luncheon. At William W. Rutherford & Associates, our extensive list of operating services include a specialized focus in production optimization and maintenance optimization. Our keynote speaker for this event was Kevin Hurst from Stone Energy. Kevin joined Stone Energy in 2008 as Offshore Production Operations Manager. He has over 20 years of experience working for companies such as Modec, Southern Natural Pipeline, and Atlantic Richfield Company. We hope you find this presentation to be insightful and informative. Please enjoy.
Now, appreciate that, Greg. That was a very generous introduction. Now, no self-respecting Louisianian would come here to Texas without at least one Boudreaux and Thibodeau joke, right? So here's mine for you guys today. Boudreaux and Thibodeau were out rabbit hunting one day, and they're walking across the marsh and not seeing any rabbits, and they come across this huge sinkhole. And Boudreaux looks at it and says, "Yeah, Thibodeau, that hole's deep, huh? How deep you think that is?" Thibodeau said, "I don't know, my cher." He said, "Well, go get a stick and we'll throw it, listen, and time, see how long it takes to fall." So they get a little stick and they throw it in there, and the boys are looking over, listening, watching her watch. Nothing. I didn't hear nothing. "Let's get a bigger stick. Go get this branch and throw it in there." So they go get a branch and they throw it in. They're looking at their watch. They listen. Nothing. He said, "Now, John, go get that cross tie over there. I know if we throw that cross tie in there, that's going to make some noise." So they go get the cross tie, they wrestle it over the edge and throw it over the side. Well, shortly after that, this goat comes running out of the brush, out of nowhere, full speed, jumps headfirst into the hole. Hang on, my God, that was a crazy goat, huh? "Yeah, it's crazy goat." "Well, there ain't no rabbits this morning. Let's go on in." So on their way back, they're walking. And they come across Clarence, Mr. Clarence. They say, "Hey, Mr. Clarence, how you boys doing today? Y'all get some rabbits?" "No, Mr. Clarence, them rabbits, they sleeping late this morning." "Oh, yeah, sometimes they do that." He said, they said, "What you doing, Mr. Clarence?" He goes, "Well, I'm looking for my goat." And he said, "Oh, he didn't see your goat. We saw some crazy goat. He went running and jumped in a hole." He goes, "He was crazy goat running?" He said, "Oh, that can't be my goat because I have mine tied off to a cross tie." So as with you have to appreciate the humor of the Cajuns. They just have a different way of looking at life. But what I want to share with you today is a journey we've been on at Stone Energy, and I think there's a lot of parts and pieces of this that you can find applicable, whether in the E&P side or service side of our business. We actually had a number of aha moments, is what I call them in here, and it was a journey that it wasn't without bumps. It left a few marks. It wasn't without a little bit of resistance that we went down it, but we really did learn some things that I want to share with you. Let's see. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about Stone Energy. We're an independent oil and gas company based in Lafayette, Louisiana. We have a target, a performance target, to be in the top 25 percentile within our industry group on a 3-year rolling average. And of course, our strategy is basically to continue to develop and exploit on the shelf, to grow reserves in what we call grow gas reserves in price-advantaged basins such as the Marcellus Shale and some deep water or ultra-deep shale, and then also to profitably grow our oil reserves in the deep water Gulf of Mexico and the Rocky Mountains. If you take a quick snapshot, we're about a 50-50 mix with current crude producing at about 60% oil, 40% gas, all reserves at about 58% gas, 42% oil. So slightly, about 50-50 is the way I like to call it. So where do we start? Well, back in 2009, my boss came to me, Jerry Winslow, who's Vice President of Operations. He goes, "How are we doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, how do you think we're doing compared to our competitors?" I said, "I think we do pretty good." And I think that's what most people would say. But without, and I was looking at operating data, we were doing a fine job controlling costs, not so bad on production. But so he said, "Well, why don't we benchmark ourselves. And I said, okay, fine. That's about the time that Ziff Energy had the 2009 shale study going on. And so we participated in this study. And it was really out of, it was a little reluctance on my part because I was concerned that it was going to create way more questions than it was going to provide answers to. But we said, let's go participate. Let's see where we're at. And there's a couple of folks in the room here that participated as well. And what we found from the Ziff study is that we were slightly better than average on per unit operating costs when you added it all up, and slightly below average when we took a look at our operating efficiency or uptime. Some of the, if you haven't participated in the Ziff study, I'm going to give Richard's in the back. I'll give you a plug, Richard. It really was an eye-opening exercise to go through. In that, it characterized our different properties by the type of property it was, as well as it separated them in a top, a middle, and a bottom tercile. So, as would be expected, when you rolled it all up, we ended up with about a third of our properties in the top third, about a third in the middle, and about a third in the bottom. Not real surprising, the ones that were in the top had a pretty good idea why they were in the top. The ones that were in the bottom, no real surprises there. There were a lot in the middle, and this is some of the data that comes out of that study. I built a chart out of that just to kind of rank, and the ones that, that's bad. There's supposed to be a laser on here. Here it is. The ones that are in the blue, basically, this is the benchmark operating cost for the benchmark study. This is 2009. This is 2010. The ones that are blue all the way across were basically in that top third for all 3 years. The cost didn't change much. Production stayed relatively flat. The ones that were white were in the middle grouping. And what you saw is some they started off in top third, and they moved more towards the middle, which is kind of a depletion type thing. And then we did have some that were in the bottom third that ultimately moved up to the top third. So it kind of gave us a way of looking at our properties and going, hey, do we really understand what's going on and how we're doing this? But it set us down a path to say, well, maybe there's some things we can improve upon. So kind of the conclusions for the benchmark study was we were doing pretty good on the operating cost. We're actually above average on 5 out of the 6 categories, but it did identify some potential savings. One of the presentations was, for us, about $25 million savings if we moved everything at least up to average. So everything below average, we had just moved it up to average, is about $25 million. If we moved everything up to top tercile performance, we'd save about $70 million. And this is out of about a $200 million budget, so pretty substantial savings. But it did show that in terms of operating efficiency or uptime, we had some room to grow. And there was some opportunities to increase production. Best-in-class operating efficiency for us, or what we learned from the study, is about 95%. Our average was about 88%. So we did 2 things. This is at the end of 2009. So we did 2 things for 2010. We had merged or bought Bodark around September of 2009. So we had already identified that we wanted to take advantage of some synergies and try and do some cost savings on that. So we knew we would have some leverage there, but at the time of the 2010 update, we actually drove our LOE savings initially down to about $30 million, which was on line with this, but we ultimately got down to a savings of about $60 million. That's right around 25%. So we were able to drive our LOE cost down by 25% from 2009 to 2011, which is a substantial amount of money. We also kind of began saying, hey, let's have a focus on downtime. It was really more of a top-down type focus, nothing fancy. And by just adding that focus to it and having the guys think more about what was causing some of this downtime, we actually pushed our operating efficiency from 88% up to 91%. Just to give you a flavor, for our company, every 1% increase in uptime correlates to about $10 million in additional net cash flow for that year. And when you're looking at uptime, typically it's not a lot of investment, so it's almost like free cash flow. So if you look at the results of what we're able to achieve in here, on an annualized basis, it's approaching $100 million a year. For a $2 billion company, that's a lot of money. So I know for a lot of you guys in here that may not be much, but for us it was a significant amount of money. So moving on, we said, well, okay, we've made some great strides, we've improved, and in that time that we drove operating costs down by 25%, we actually had flat production. So our per LOE costs actually improved substantially in that time period. But my boss, Jerry, still wasn't happy, and he's one of these guys that says, you always got to be doing something to continually improve. We said, okay, that's fine. We've made some progress, but we're not at best in class on our operating performance. We still are struggling a little bit. Is there something we can do to improve that more? So basically, we engaged a Rutherford group to come in and help take a look at what we were doing. And we had kind of three goals. You know, one, we knew that there was probably some more opportunity to increase our uptime. So we had a real focus on that. We wanted to identify and address the issues that were keeping us from achieving this production here. And then finally, we wanted to establish what we called the Stone way of operating. And Stone Energy, for you folks that aren't real familiar with us, we grew a lot by acquisition. So in that process, what you end up with is a bunch of different properties and folks that came from a variety of different places that all have their own way of operating. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it did led to some inconsistencies and some gaps in the way we approach things. And we felt like if there's a right way to do it, or the best way for Stone to do it might not necessarily be for other operators or other places, but for us, we want to identify that and capture it. So we started off with the first phase was a gap analysis. And this is, you know, I kind of go back to Mike Wiley. I worked for Mike Wiley when he was